Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop caring so much, life suddenly starts working? The moment you stop chasing people, they come back. The moment you stop forcing opportunities, new ones appear out of nowhere. And the moment you finally calm your heart, the very thing you were stressed about begins to fix itself. This is not magic. This is not luck. This is a universal law that Buddhism has taught for centuries. When your mind relaxes, your life aligns. You don't lose what's meant for you by letting go. You lose it by clinging too tightly. Today, I want you to hear this with complete honesty. The life you're trying to force is the very life that's holding you back, and the life that's meant for you is waiting just on the other side of your calmness. 1. You suffer most when you fight what already is. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that suffering does not come from life itself. It comes from your resistance to life. The moment something happens, whether it is a disappointment, a delay, a rejection, or an unexpected change, your mind immediately begins to argue with reality. You start creating mental stories such as, "This shouldn't be happening," "Why is this happening to me?" or "I need this to work right now." Each thought becomes a heavy emotional burden that weighs you down. You are no longer suffering from the event itself. You are suffering from your refusal to accept that the event has already happened. When you fight reality, you create a silent war inside your own mind. A war you can never win, because reality will not change simply because you dislike it. Life unfolds at its own pace, in its own order, and according to its own wisdom. Yet human beings often believe that everything must happen in the exact way they imagine, at the exact time they want, and when it doesn't, frustration takes over. This is where suffering intensifies, not because life is cruel, but because the mind is demanding something different from what already is. Imagine trying to push a door that only opens toward you. No matter how hard you push, no matter how desperately you try, it will not move. You exhaust yourself, you get angry, you feel defeated. And all of this happens only because you refuse to stop pushing and try pulling instead. This is exactly how life works. Pushing against the moment never opens the way forward. Understanding it does. The truth is simple but difficult for many to accept. Life is not required to adjust itself for your comfort. It is not bound to your personal timeline, your wishes, or your plans. Life does not rush because you want it to. It does not slow down because you feel overwhelmed. It does not rearrange itself simply because you demand a different outcome. The more you try to force life to obey you, the more it pushes back. And the harder it pushes back, the more you suffer. But the moment you stop insisting, the moment you stop trying to control everything, something powerful happens. Your mind becomes lighter. Your breathing becomes deeper. Your thoughts stop fighting each other. You begin to accept that reality is not your enemy. It is simply the present moment happening exactly as it must. Acceptance is not defeat. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance does not mean you stop improving your life or stop taking action. It simply means you stop fighting the fact that what has already happened cannot be undone. You stop wasting energy on battles that were never meant to be fought. When you allow things to be as they are, even when you dislike them, you create mental space. This space gives birth to clarity, and clarity brings solutions. Solutions that are invisible when your mind is clouded by resistance. Acceptance opens the door to wisdom because it shifts your energy from fighting to understanding. This is why Buddhists say that peace begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. When you step into alignment with what is happening instead of trying to bend it to your expectations, life begins to flow around you instead of pushing against you. The river of life does not need you to control its direction. It only needs you to stop resisting the current. Once you do, you move forward with greater ease than you ever imagined. 2. What is chaste? Too hard always runs away. Buddhism teaches a powerful truth that most people learn only after years of frustration. The more desperately you chase something, the more it slips away from you. This is not because life is cruel, but because chasing comes from a place of fear, and fear creates the very distance you are trying to avoid. When you chase a person, an opportunity, success, or even peace itself with anxious energy, you are silently telling the universe, "I am incomplete without this. I am afraid I will lose this," or "I don't trust that this will come to me naturally." That energy does not attract, it repels. Think about it in simple terms. When someone tries too hard to impress you, you feel pushed away. When someone clings to you with fear, you feel suffocated. When someone rushes you, it creates pressure. Life responds in the same way. The universe naturally withdraws from desperation because desperation comes from attachment, fear, and anxiety, exactly the states of mind that block blessings from reaching you. Everything in life has a natural flow, a natural timing, and a natural rhythm. You cannot force a flower to bloom by pulling on its petals. You cannot make fruit ripen faster by squeezing it. Yet people try to do this with their dreams, relationships, careers, and goals every single day. They use pressure instead of patience, force instead of trust, panic instead of wisdom. But the universe does not reward frantic energy. It rewards aligned energy. When you chase something too intensely, you are telling yourself that you are powerless without it. This weakens your spirit and clouds your mind. You begin acting not from clarity, but from fear of missing out. Fear-based actions are almost always the wrong ones. They make you choose things you don't truly want, trust people you shouldn't trust, stay in situations that are hurting you, and accept less than what you deserve simply because you're afraid of being left with nothing. The irony is that the moment you stop chasing, the moment you let go of fear and allow the universe to do its work, everything begins to move toward you effortlessly. Not because you stopped caring, but because you shifted from anxious attachment to peaceful alignment. Calm energy is magnetic. When your mind is relaxed, when your heart is steady, when your spirit is not begging or forcing, you create a powerful inner space that naturally attracts what is right for you. This is why monks and wise teachers often say, "Do not chase, do not beg, do not cling. What is yours will come." The things meant for you do not require you to run after them. They come towards you when you are in a state of inner balance. A peaceful mind sees opportunities that a stressed mind misses. A calm heart attracts connections that an anxious heart pushes away. A steady energy invites blessings that a restless energy blocks. The key is not to stop wanting. The key is to stop chasing out of fear. Wanting is natural. Intention is powerful. But chasing with desperation is a sign that you do not trust your path. When you trust, you let life unfold without forcing it. You act with clarity instead of panic. You move with purpose instead of pressure. What is meant for you will never need to be hunted. What belongs to you will never run away when you stop running. And what is truly aligned with your soul will always find its way to you, especially when you no longer try to drag it into your life. 3. When you hold on too tightly, you lose what you're trying to keep. One of the most misunderstood truths in life is this: holding on too tightly often destroys the very thing you are trying to save. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, not because love or desire is wrong, but because fear-based attachment suffocates everything it touches. When you cling to something with the fear of losing it, your energy becomes heavy, anxious, and controlling. You don't act from love. You act from insecurity. You don't act from wisdom. You act from fear. And fear makes your hands shake, your decisions weak, and your heart exhausted. Think about water. If you cup your hands gently, it remains. If you squeeze your hands, it slips out. Life works exactly the same way. Whether it's a relationship, an opportunity, a dream, or your own identity, when you try to control it tightly, it eventually gets pushed away. Not because it wasn't yours, but because your fear suffocated the natural space it needed to grow. People often cling because they think letting go means losing. They believe if they loosen their grip, things will fall apart. But the truth is the exact opposite. Things fall apart when you grip them with fear. When you hold something lightly, with trust and openness, you allow it to breathe, expand, evolve, and stay naturally. Real love, real opportunities, and real blessings stay because they are aligned with you, not because you imprison them. When you're attached, you begin to confuse possession with connection. You think, if I hold on tighter, it won't leave. But the universe does not respond to fear. The universe responds to alignment. What is truly meant for you will not require you to chase, control, or suffocate it. It will not depend on your fear to survive. What is meant for you stays because it resonates with who you are, not because you forced it into your life. Holding on too tightly also blocks your ability to grow. It traps you in the past while life tries to move you forward. You cling to memories, expectations, or outdated versions of yourself because letting go feels like death. But often, holding on becomes a heavier burden than releasing ever could be. You cannot receive what's meant for you if your hands are full of what is no longer aligned with your journey. Buddhism teaches that everything in life is impermanent. People change, situations evolve, and circumstances shift. When you cling to something out of fear, you are fighting against this natural flow, and fighting the flow always creates suffering. Letting go does not mean abandoning what you care about. It means allowing it to exist freely without forcing it to match your fears, demands, or expectations. Attachment is like trying to keep a flame alive by cupping your hands too close. The tighter you hold, the faster it burns out. But when you give it space, oxygen, and trust, it becomes stronger. The same is true for people, dreams, and even your own inner peace. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is choosing trust over fear. It is choosing to believe that what is real will stay, what is temporary will leave, and what is meant for you will return in a form better than you ever imagined. When you loosen your grip, you open the path for something more aligned, more peaceful, and more beautiful to enter your life. You do not lose when you release. You lose when you cling. And you finally win when you trust that life knows how to hold you better than your fear ever could. 4. The moment you become calm, you see what your stress was hiding. One of the most transformative truths in Buddhism is that clarity does not come from thinking harder. It comes from thinking calmer. When your mind is stressed, overwhelmed, or filled with fear, your ability to see reality becomes distorted. Stress narrows your perception. It makes small problems look enormous. It turns simple decisions into complicated battles. It takes a single challenge and multiplies it into 10. In a state of panic, your mind becomes your enemy because it turns against you with confusion, doubt, and fear-based imagination. You don't see life as it is. You see life through the fog of your own stress. When you're overwhelmed, your mind begins racing, jumping from one worry to another, creating scenarios that haven't happened and may never happen. You start thinking, what if this goes wrong? What if I lose everything? What if I choose the wrong path? These thoughts create emotional noise so loud that you cannot hear your own wisdom beneath it. Stress is not just an emotion. It is a mental storm that hides solutions, blinds you to opportunities, and blocks the intuition that normally guides you. But something remarkable happens the moment you stop and breathe deeply. When you withdraw from the chaos of your thoughts and let your mind settle, even for a few seconds, the fog begins to lift. Calmness is not idleness. It is not avoidance. It is a deliberate returning to your inner center. It is the choice to quiet the storm so you can finally see the sky again. When you become calm, you begin to see options you couldn't see before. You notice answers that were right in front of you but hidden under layers of worry. You understand what needs to be done without force. Calmness reveals what stress tried to hide. Think of a glass of muddy water. If you shake it, the mud spreads everywhere, making the entire glass cloudy. This is what your mind becomes under stress: shaken, unclear, impossible to see through. But if you set the glass down and allow it to be still, the mud slowly settles to the bottom and the water becomes clear again without you doing anything. Your mind works exactly the same way. When you stop shaking it with panic, fear, and overthinking, clarity returns on its own. Most people believe that they can think their way out of stress by forcing solutions, but stress-based thinking leads to stress-based actions. You rush, you act impulsively, and you make decisions you later regret. Calmness, on the other hand, allows your inner wisdom to awaken. Calmness gives you access to your best self, the part of you that is patient, intelligent, grounded, and spiritually aware. This is why Buddhist monks prioritize meditation, breathing, and stillness. They know that the quality of your mind determines the quality of your life. When the mind is chaotic, life feels chaotic. When the mind is calm, life begins to organize itself. You start responding instead of reacting. You start choosing instead of panicking. You begin seeing things as they truly are, not as your fear imagines them to be. Calm energy also attracts better outcomes. People trust you more when your energy is steady. Opportunities stay longer because you are not pushing them away with anxiety. The universe responds to your inner state, and calmness sends a powerful message. I trust my path. I trust my timing. I am open to clarity. And clarity comes. Stress is the fog. Calmness is the sun. The fog never lasts when the sun rises. The moment you become calm, you don't escape your problems. You finally see the path through them. 5. When you stop rushing, life reveals the path meant for you. One of the most liberating teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that rushing does not get you to your destiny faster. It only makes you exhausted before you arrive. Most people live in a constant race, racing against time, against their fears, against society, and sometimes even against their own expectations. They wake up with anxiety, spend the day in pressure, and go to sleep with worry still sitting on their chest. Yet, if you ask them why they are rushing, they often cannot give a real answer. They rush because they feel they must. They rush because everyone else is rushing. They rush because they fear falling behind. But falling behind according to whose timeline, whose standards, whose expectations? Buddhism teaches that every person has their own rhythm, just like every tree in the forest grows in its own season. A bamboo plant can take years to break through the soil, yet once it does, it grows faster than almost anything else. Meanwhile, other plants bloom quickly but fade even faster. The cycle is not the same, but the value is. Life is not a competition, it is a journey with its own timing for every soul. When you rush, you become blind. You overlook the signs, the lessons, the hints, and the small whispers of the universe that are trying to guide you gently. Rushing makes you impatient, and impatience makes you force decisions that were never meant for you. You accept wrong relationships because you don't want to be alone. You take wrong opportunities because you don't want to wait. You make choices out of fear instead of clarity. And every rushed decision creates future problems. Problems that require even more time, energy, and healing to undo. But something extraordinary happens when you slow down. When you stop rushing and stop trying to force life into the shape you want, you begin seeing the path that was quietly waiting for you. The right opportunities that felt invisible begin appearing in front of you. The right ideas come to your mind naturally instead of through pressure. The right people come into your life effortlessly because you are finally moving at the pace of your own destiny instead of the pace of your fear. Slowing down does not mean you stop moving. It means you start moving with awareness instead of panic. It means you take steps that come from your inner wisdom, not your anxiety. It means you trust that life is unfolding at the speed it is supposed to, not too slow, not too fast, but exactly right for your soul's growth. When you slow down, you stop tripping over your own urgency. You start seeing life with clarity instead of through the blurry lens of haste. Imagine walking through a beautiful garden. If you sprint through it, you miss everything. The colors, the scents, the fine details, the gentle breeze, the hidden flowers. You reach the end, but you gained nothing from the journey. This is how most people live. They reach milestones but feel empty because they never truly experienced anything. But if you walk slowly with awareness, you begin to notice the beauty and meaning in places you never expected. Rushing creates mistakes. Rushing creates stress. Rushing creates inner conflict. But moving with calm intention creates alignment. You begin noticing that what is meant for you does not require desperation. What is meant for you comes with ease, clarity, and a natural unfolding that feels peaceful to your spirit. You don't need to grab it. You don't need to fight for it. You don't need to chase it. It simply fits into your life without struggle. Many people think they lost opportunities because they were too slow. The truth is, the opportunities that vanish when you slow down were never truly yours. What is yours will not disappear. What is yours will not require you to damage your health, sacrifice your peace, destroy your self-worth, or speed beyond your emotional capacity. What is yours will wait, align, and meet you at the perfect moment, when you are ready, not when you are rushed. Slowing down is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the wisdom of knowing that life is long, your path is unfolding, and the universe is timing everything with precision far beyond your understanding. A person who slows down sees doors that a rushing person runs past. A calm mind hears answers that a frantic mind cannot. A peaceful soul attracts blessings that a desperate soul repels. When you stop rushing, you do not lose time, you gain clarity. And with clarity, you finally see the path that life carved for you long before you even learned how to walk it. The right path is never found through panic. It is always revealed through peace. 6. Letting go does not mean losing. It means making space for better. One of the greatest misunderstandings in life is the belief that letting go is a form of losing. People think that if they release a relationship, an opportunity, a habit, or a dream, it means they have failed or that life has taken something away from them. But Buddhism teaches something entirely different. Letting go is not loss. Letting go is an act of courage. It is a conscious decision to stop carrying burdens that were slowly breaking your spirit. It is the understanding that your hands cannot receive new blessings if they are tightly gripping pain, fear, or outdated versions of your life. Most people hold on not because something is good for them, but because they are afraid of emptiness. They fear loneliness, uncertainty, or the possibility that nothing better will come. They cling to familiar suffering rather than release it for unfamiliar peace. They convince themselves that staying in something painful is safer than stepping into the unknown. This belief traps countless people in situations that drain them emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. But what people fail to realize is that holding on to something that is wrong for you prevents what is right for you from entering. When you cling to a negative situation, you block the flow of life. You block new opportunities, new experiences, new people, new growth, and new peace. You create emotional congestion. Your heart becomes crowded with old pain, old memories, old hopes, and old fears, and there is no room for anything more. Letting go, on the other hand, is a spiritual reset. It clears your inner space. It frees your energy. It allows the universe to place something aligned, peaceful, and meaningful into your life. When you let go, you are not losing, you are making room. You are not ending your story. You are turning a page so a new chapter can begin. You are not breaking, you are releasing what broke you so you can heal. Think of a tree in autumn. The leaves fall, not because the tree is dying, but because the tree understands that it must shed the old to grow into its next season. The tree does not cry for the leaves it loses. It does not fear emptiness. It does not cling. It trusts the rhythm of life. It trusts that new leaves will come in spring. It trusts that every cycle has a purpose. This is the wisdom of letting go. Nature has mastered it. Humans must learn it. Most suffering comes from attachment, not to love, but to fear. Attachment says, I cannot live without this, even when this is harming you. Letting go says, I deserve peace more than I deserve this pain. Attachment says, what if I never find something better? Letting go says, if this is not right for me, life will bring something that is. Attachment traps, letting go frees. When you let go of what hurts you, you are not empty, you are open. When you release what drains you, you are not weak, you are wise. When you walk away from what is not aligned, you are not abandoning your path, you are finally choosing it. Life has an extraordinary way of replacing the things you once cried for with things you never imagined. But this only happens after you make space, after you let go, after you trust the process instead of gripping the past with fear. People often say, I'll let go when I feel ready. But readiness does not come before letting go. Readiness comes because you let go. The mind becomes lighter, the heart becomes softer, the spirit becomes freer. And only then do you realize how heavy the old burden truly was. Letting go is not a moment of weakness. It is a moment of clarity. It is the moment you decide that your peace is worth more than your past. It is the moment you choose growth over familiarity, healing over suffering, and self-respect over fear. You must understand, life does not take from you without intending to replace it with something better. Every ending carries the seed of a beginning. Every release makes space for renewal. Every time you let go, you step closer to the life you were meant to live. You lose nothing by letting go, but you lose yourself by holding on to what is not for you. Letting go is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the part where you finally become free. 7. Good things come to the mind that knows how to be still. One of the deepest foundations of Buddhist wisdom is the understanding that the mind itself determines the quality of your life. A restless mind creates a restless life. A peaceful mind creates a peaceful life. Yet most people spend their entire lives in mental noise, endless thinking, constant worrying, overanalyzing every detail, predicting disasters that never happen, replaying old memories that cannot be changed, and imagining scenarios they will never face. The mind becomes a storm, and when the mind is a storm, life feels like a battlefield. But Buddhism teaches something completely different. The power you seek, the clarity you desire, the opportunities you hope for, and the peace you crave all appear the moment the mind becomes still. Stillness is not just the absence of movement. It is the absence of internal chaos. It is a state where your thoughts stop fighting each other. It is where you are no longer pulled in 10 directions by fear, desire, expectations, or regrets. Stillness is the natural state of the mind, and the reason life feels so heavy is because you have forgotten how to return to that natural state. When the mind is restless, everything in life looks difficult. You start seeing challenges where there are none. You misinterpret simple things, you make assumptions, you take things personally, you rush into decisions, you speak from emotion rather than wisdom. Stress becomes your default response, and when your inner world is chaotic, even the smallest inconvenience feels like a disaster. A restless mind multiplies suffering, creates imaginary problems, and keeps you trapped in cycles of confusion. But a still mind is like a clear lake. When the water is calm, you can see deeply. You see the truth of things. You see solutions instead of problems. You see possibilities instead of limitations. You think slowly, you observe deeply, and you respond from understanding rather than impulse. You become someone who moves through life with a sense of grounded confidence rather than emotional instability. This is why monks spend years training the mind, because a mind that is still can see reality as it is, not as fear or desire paints it. When you learn to be still, you stop living in your imagination and return to the present moment. And in the present moment, life is almost always manageable. It is the mind that complicates everything. Good things come to the mind that knows how to be still, because stillness changes the energy you radiate. When you are calm, people trust you more. When you are peaceful, you make better decisions. When you are steady, opportunities stay in your life instead of slipping away. A still mind invites blessings because it sends a message to the universe. I am ready, I am open, I am grounded. Look at how nature behaves. A flower does not grow faster by forcing itself open. The sun does not rise quicker because someone is impatient. Rivers do not flow straighter because you demand it. Nature moves with calmness, and everything in nature eventually reaches its destination. You are part of nature. Your life also unfolds at its own pace. When you try to force things, you disturb that natural rhythm. But when you become still, you align yourself with the universe. Most people believe they need to do more, chase more, work harder, think harder, push harder. But Buddhism teaches that the real breakthrough happens when you stop fighting and start listening. When you quiet the mind, intuition becomes louder. Intuition is the voice beneath your fear, beneath your doubt, beneath your overthinking. It is the inner wisdom that knows which path is right for you. You cannot hear intuition in chaos. You hear it in stillness. This is why meditation is so powerful, not because it changes life, but because it changes the lens through which you look at life. Meditation teaches you to sit with yourself without trying to escape. It teaches you to watch your thoughts without grabbing onto them. It teaches you that thoughts are just clouds passing through the sky. They are not you, and they do not have to control you. When you understand this, the mind gradually stops attacking you. It becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Stillness also makes you stronger emotionally. When you are calm, you are less reactive. You do not get triggered easily. You do not allow people to control your mood. You do not let small issues steal your peace. You do not jump into conflict. You do not allow anger to make decisions for you. You stop feeling the need to respond to every insult, every comment, every situation. Stillness makes you powerful because it gives you control over your internal world. And when you control your inner world, the outer world loses its ability to shake you. There is a reason why wise people are quiet. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is wisdom. Silence is where the mind rests, heals, and regains strength. Silence is where you understand things deeply, yourself, others, your desires, your wounds, your purpose. A still mind hears answers long before life reveals them. Many blessings in life don't reach you, not because they're not meant for you, but because your mind is too loud to receive them. Good opportunities require awareness. Good relationships require emotional stability. Good decisions require clarity. All of these come from stillness. You cannot attract what you are energetically unprepared for. If your mind is restless, everything that comes toward you becomes another source of anxiety. But if your mind is calm, even challenges become manageable. When you learn to be still, you change your destiny. You begin to choose differently. You begin to see differently. You begin to think differently. Stillness is a spiritual superpower. It transforms your life without you needing to force anything. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop fighting and start flowing. You stop panicking and start understanding. Good things naturally gravitate toward people who give off the energy of peace, trust, and inner steadiness. When your mind becomes still, you become like a magnet, drawing the right opportunities, the right people, the right moments, and the right outcomes into your life without chasing, forcing, or begging. A still mind is a doorway. Once you step through it, life begins unfolding in ways you never believed were possible. 8. Peace comes the moment you stop demanding life to be different. One of the core teachings of Buddhism is that peace is not found by fixing the world around you. It is found by fixing the way your mind relates to the world. People spend their whole lives trying to control everything. controlling outcomes, controlling timelines, controlling people, controlling emotions, controlling the future, and even trying to control things that have already happened. This constant demand that life must be exactly the way I want it to be becomes the root of deep suffering. The moment life does not obey your expectations, your mind collapses into frustration, fear, disappointment, anger, or hopelessness. But the truth is simple. Life was never meant to obey you. Life follows its own rhythm, its own timing, and its own wisdom. And the moment you stop demanding that life change to satisfy your mind, you begin to feel a deep peace that you may have never felt before. Most people confuse effort with force. They think that pushing harder, stressing more, and controlling everything will give them a better life. But Buddhism teaches the opposite. The more you force, the more you suffer. Forcing is the belief that life must bend for you. Flowing is the understanding that life moves with or without your permission. When you force life, you create resistance. When you flow with life, you create harmony. The difference between these two states determines whether you live in constant mental chaos or in deep inner peace. The mind has a strange habit. It always wants things to be different from what they are right now. If it's hot, you want cool. If it's cold, you want warmth. If you're alone, you want someone. If you're with someone, you want space. If you're working, you want rest. If you're resting, you feel guilty. The mind never stops demanding. It never accepts the moment as it is. This constant mental resistance creates a kind of emotional tension that never lets you rest. You live your life in a state of conflict between reality and illusion, between what is happening and what your mind insists must happen. This is why the Buddha taught that the root of suffering is craving for reality to be different. You want life to match your expectations instead of adjusting your expectations to match life. You want the world to move according to your timeline instead of trusting the timing that life already operates on. And when things don't match your mental script, you collapse emotionally. But something extraordinary happens when you finally stop resisting the moment, when you stop telling life how it should be and instead begin allowing life to be exactly what it is. You feel a weight drop from your mind. Your breath becomes deeper, your thoughts become softer, your heart stops fighting, and suddenly the world doesn't feel so heavy anymore. Peace appears, not because life becomes perfect, but because your relationship with life becomes peaceful. Acceptance does not mean you want the situation. Acceptance does not mean you agree with it. Acceptance does not mean you stop working for change. Acceptance simply means you stop fighting the fact that the moment already exists. You stop wasting emotional energy arguing with reality. You begin saying, "This is what is happening right now. Let me respond with clarity instead of resisting with fear." When you resist reality, you blind yourself. You cannot see what the situation is trying to teach you. You cannot see alternative paths. You cannot see hidden opportunities. You cannot see why life placed this moment in your journey. Resistance is like closing your eyes in anger and then wondering why everything feels dark. Acceptance is the act of opening your eyes and seeing clearly. Most people fear acceptance because they think it means giving up, but acceptance is not surrendering your power, it is reclaiming it. When you accept the moment, you become grounded. You stop fighting shadows. You stop wasting strength on things you cannot change. You redirect your energy toward what can be influenced. Acceptance frees you to take more intelligent action. It removes emotional fog. It clears your internal landscape so wisdom can arise. Imagine standing in a river, trying to stop the water with your hands. No matter how hard you push, the river will continue to move. It does not flow because you allow it. It flows because that is its nature. Fighting it only exhausts you. But when you let the water pass, when you stop resisting, you suddenly find balance. You feel lighter. You move with the river instead of against it. Life works the same way. When you stop demanding that the river flow backwards, peace finds you. Demanding life to be different also prevents you from appreciating the blessings already present in your life. You miss good moments because your mind is busy imagining different ones. You miss love because you are longing for a different version of it. You miss success because you want it to look like someone else's. You miss progress because you are comparing your journey to others. You miss growth because you insist on comfort. You miss the beauty of now because your mind is stuck in what should be. Acceptance brings you back to the present moment, and the present moment is the only place where life truly exists. The past is unchangeable, the future is unpredictable, but now, this breath, this moment, is the only reality that is not slipping away. When you accept the now, you stop living through your imagination and start living through your awareness. And awareness is where wisdom grows. Good things also begin to enter your life when you stop forcing life to match your expectations. With acceptance, your energy shifts. You become calmer, more grounded, more open, more observant, and more aligned with the natural rhythm of life. You become someone who sees clearly instead of reacting blindly. And a clear mind attracts better experiences, better people, better decisions, and better outcomes. Life responds to your inner state. When your state is peaceful, life moves in more peaceful ways. When your state is chaotic, life appears chaotic even when it isn't. The world is not the problem. The lens through which you see the world is. Acceptance cleans that lens. This is why monks appear so calm even in difficult circumstances. They do not control life. They control their response to life. They do not eliminate suffering. They eliminate the mental resistance that multiplies suffering. They do not escape reality. They live fully in it without demanding it to be different. Their peace comes from alignment, not from escape. And you can experience the same peace when you stop insisting that everything unfold the way you imagine. When you stop demanding and start allowing. When you stop resisting and start observing. When you stop forcing and start flowing. Life becomes lighter not when circumstances change, but when the mind changes its relationship to circumstances. Peace is not outside you, it is a shift inside you. The moment you stop demanding life to be different, you discover that life was not your enemy. Your expectations were. 9. Life starts guiding you the moment you stop forcing your own direction. One of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism is that life is always trying to guide you, but it can only guide you when you stop trying to control everything with your limited understanding. Most people spend their lives pushing, forcing, overthinking, and trying to drag reality toward the outcome they want. They believe that if they don't take complete control, everything will fall apart. They believe that if they are not constantly planning, worrying, or pushing, nothing good will happen. But Buddhism teaches that the universe already has a path carved for you. It is not your job to create the entire journey. Your job is simply to walk with awareness, respond with wisdom, and trust the direction life reveals to you at the right time. When you force your own direction, you rely on fear. You try to control things that were never meant to be controlled: timing, opportunities, people, outcomes, and the future itself. You attach your happiness to specific results, and when those results don't happen exactly the way you imagined, you feel defeated. Your mind panics. You think life is failing you, but in reality, life is redirecting you. The problem is not life. The problem is that your expectations leave no room for life to move. The truth is that your understanding is always limited. You cannot see the full map of your life. You cannot see every consequence, every hidden blessing, every avoided disaster, or every unseen opportunity. You only see the step in front of you, but the universe sees the whole path. When you force a direction, you are walking blind. But when you surrender the need to control everything, you open yourself to a deeper intelligence, one that knows far more than your fear ever will. Most people confuse surrender with laziness, but surrender does not mean giving up. It means letting go of the illusion that everything must follow your script. It means allowing life to participate in your journey instead of trying to drag the entire journey by yourself. It means understanding that you can take action without controlling the outcome. You can move forward without knowing every detail. You can trust life without having every answer. When you stop forcing, you become more observant. You start noticing signs, patterns, and small nudges from life that were impossible to see when your mind was filled with stress and urgency. Life is constantly speaking to you through intuition, feelings, synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, and even through obstacles. When something doesn't work, no matter how hard you push, that itself is guidance. When something comes easily, that is guidance too. When someone leaves your life, when a door closes, when a delay happens, when plans collapse, these are all forms of direction. Life redirects you not to punish you, but to protect you from paths that are not meant for your growth. Forcing your direction blinds you to this guidance. It makes you stubborn. It makes you desperate. It makes you chase things that are not aligned with your soul. It makes you repeat the same mistakes. But letting go of force brings awareness. You begin to see things as they are, not as you want them to be. You stop arguing with reality. You stop chasing dead ends. You stop trying to make closed doors open. You stop trying to fit yourself into places that reject your energy. When you stop forcing, life becomes more like a dance. You move, and life moves with you. You take a step, and life reveals the next. You make an intention, and life shows the path you breathe, and life breathes with you. This is the harmony that comes from trusting instead of controlling. Think of a river flowing down a mountain. No matter how many rocks, branches, or obstacles lie in its path, the river does not panic. It does not force itself through solid barriers. It simply flows around them, changes direction when necessary, and continues moving gently toward its destination. Eventually, it always reaches the ocean, not because it fought its way there, but because it allowed the natural flow of life to guide it. You are the same. You are not meant to break every wall with force. You are meant to flow. You are meant to adjust. You are meant to evolve. Forcing makes you rigid. Flow makes you wise. Life begins guiding you when you relax your grip on how things must be. The moment you loosen your expectations, your energy softens. You become less reactive. You begin noticing opportunities that were invisible before. You start listening to your intuition, something most people silence because they believe logic alone can guide their lives. But intuition is not random. It is the echo of the deeper wisdom inside you. When you stop forcing, your intuition becomes clearer. It becomes louder. It becomes something you can finally trust. Life also guides you through peace. If a path makes you feel drained, anxious, or constantly uneasy, that is a sign. If a path brings calmness, even if it's challenging or uncertain, that is guidance too. Peace is a compass. When you force things, you move toward stress. When you flow, you move toward peace. Your soul already knows which way to go. You simply need to stop interrupting it with fear. You must also understand that what you think you want is often limited by what you've seen. Your mind creates desires based on your past experiences, your childhood, the people around you, and the environment you grew up in. But life thinks beyond that. Life sees what you can become, not just what you currently are. So sometimes life takes you away from something you think you want, not because you don't deserve it, but because something far greater is waiting for you. When you force your direction, you block that greater possibility. When you surrender force, you allow miracles you never imagined to enter your life. This is why some of the best things that ever happen to people begin with disappointment. A relationship ends. A job falls apart. A plan collapses. A dream dies. And yet, years later, people say, "I didn't see it then, but that moment saved me. That moment redirected me. That moment changed my entire life." This is the wisdom of life, guiding you in a way your mind could not understand at the time. But you don't need to wait for years of hindsight to see this truth. You can recognize it now. You can make peace with it now. You can trust life now. When you stop forcing your direction and begin flowing with life, your anxiety fades. Your heart becomes lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. Your path becomes visible. You finally move with life instead of against it. When you stop forcing, you don't lose control. You gain alignment. When you stop forcing, you don't become passive. You become receptive. When you stop forcing, life does not stop moving. You start moving with it. When you stop forcing, you stop walking blind. You begin seeing with the eyes of your soul. Life has always been guiding you, but guidance can only reach the mind that is not too busy resisting. When you release force, the universe finally has room to work in your favor. 10. The universe moves in your favor when you stop interrupting its timing. One of the most life-changing teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that everything in existence operates with natural timing. Just as seasons change at their own pace and flowers bloom in their own season, your life also unfolds with divine timing that cannot be rushed, forced, manipulated, or predicted. The universe does not operate according to your schedule. It operates according to the deeper intelligence that governs all things. When you stop interrupting this timing with fear, impatience, or force, life begins to move in your favor effortlessly. Most suffering comes from one simple illusion: the belief that you must make everything happen right now. This belief makes people restless, anxious, and emotionally unstable. They are constantly looking at the clock of their life, comparing their journey to others, feeling behind, feeling inadequate, feeling like they must hurry before time runs out. But this mindset blocks the natural flow of blessings. You cannot speed up what is meant to unfold slowly. You cannot delay what is meant to happen now. You cannot force what needs time to grow. And you cannot hold on to what is meant to leave. When you try to interfere with divine timing, you create chaos inside yourself. You push for things that are not ready. You chase people who are not meant for you. You make decisions that come from fear instead of clarity. You try to create opportunities that are not aligned with your path, and this only leads to stress, disappointment, and fatigue that could have been avoided if you simply trusted the timing of your life. The truth is this: you are not behind, you are not late, you are not forgotten, you are not unlucky. You are on the exact step of your journey that you are meant to be on right now. Every delay has meaning. Every pause has purpose. Every moment of waiting is preparing something in silence. But because you cannot see this preparation, you assume nothing is happening. You assume life is ignoring you. But life is never stagnant. It is always moving, always rearranging, always creating something behind the scenes, something your eyes cannot see but your soul will eventually understand. When you stop interrupting the universe's timing, you begin to experience life in a completely different way. You begin to see that everything you once worried about eventually resolved itself without your anxiety. Every moment you feared was the end was actually the beginning of something greater. Every closed door protected you. Every delay redirected you. Every disappointment shaped you. Every loss taught you. Every weight transformed you. Life was always working behind the curtain. You just needed patience to see the performance. Think about the bamboo plant. For the first few years, nothing appears above the soil. You water it, you care for it, you nurture it, and nothing happens. It looks like a failure. It looks like a waste of time. But in reality, the bamboo is growing deep underground, building roots strong enough to support its future height. And then suddenly, in a short period, it shoots up meters in the air. This is how your blessings work. They often remain invisible for a long time because the universe is building strong roots before giving you height. If you rush the process, the blessing cannot survive. If you force it, it collapses. But when you trust the timing, you receive it at the exact moment you are spiritually ready to carry it. The universe also protects you through timing. Sometimes when something doesn't happen, it is because it would have harmed you if it happened earlier. Sometimes when something ends, It is because something better is approaching. Sometimes when you are asked to wait, it is because the path is not clear yet. Sometimes when the door closes, it is because that door was leading to suffering you could not see. You call it delay. The universe calls it protection. You call it rejection. Life calls it redirection. You also must understand that the universe does not respond to desperation. When your mind is filled with fear and impatience, you send a message of lack. You send the energy of nothing is working. I am not enough. I will miss out. I need this now. This energy blocks blessings because blessings require a state of openness, not panic. When you trust timing, your energy becomes peaceful, and peaceful energy is magnetic. It attracts opportunities, people, ideas, and solutions without force. Life becomes easier when you stop trying to outrun time. Rushing makes you break things that were meant to unfold gently. Impatience makes you lose things that were meant to stay. Fear makes you chase things that were never yours. But trust allows everything to fall into place effortlessly. Trust is not passive, it is powerful. It is the confidence that life knows what it is doing even when you do not. When you stop interrupting timing, you become like a tree that grows naturally, rooted, patient, stable, and aligned with the rhythm of the universe. You stop comparing your speed to others because you understand that every soul has a different timeline. You stop feeling pressured by society's expectations because you recognize that your journey has its own sacred sequence. You stop forcing outcomes because you trust that what is meant for you will arrive with certainty without needing to be dragged or begged for. You begin to understand that timing is not just about receiving blessings. It is also about being ready for them. What good is love if you are not healed? What good is opportunity if you lack the discipline? What good is success if you lack the character? What good is abundance if you lack wisdom? The universe gives at the right moment, not just when something is prepared, but when you are prepared. And that readiness often comes from difficult periods. Periods where you feel lost, confused, stuck, delayed, or empty. These are not punishments. These are the seasons where you grow roots, where you develop strength, where you learn patience, where you release what is no longer needed, where you shed old identities, where you heal old wounds, where you become someone capable of receiving the life you are asking for. Just as the seed must be buried before it breaks into light, you must sometimes experience darkness before your next growth. This darkness is not the end, it is the preparation. When you stop fighting the timing of this preparation, you begin to understand that every season of your life has meaning, even the slow seasons, even the quiet seasons, even the painful seasons. The universe has never been late. The universe has never forgotten you. The universe has never ignored your prayers, your intentions, your efforts, or your desires. It is aligning everything with precise timing, removing what is wrong, shaping what is right, strengthening what is weak, and unfolding what is meant. Your job is not to rush. Your job is to trust. Your job is not to force. Your job is to allow. Your job is not to control. Your job is to stay open. When you stop interrupting the universe's timing, blessings start arriving so smoothly that it feels like magic. But it isn't magic. It is alignment. It is surrender. It is flow. It is the result of finally stepping out of your own way. The universe moves in your favor the moment you stop blocking it with your fear. When you trust the timing of your life, you begin to realize that everything that happened, everything that didn't happen, everything that stayed, everything that left, everything that changed, and everything that paused, all of it was perfectly aligned to bring you exactly where you are destined to be. 11. Your life expands the moment you stop shrinking yourself for situations not meant for you. One of the most liberating teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that suffering does not come from life itself. It comes from trying to fit into places, roles, relationships, expectations, and identities that no longer match your soul. Most people shrink themselves every single day without even knowing it. They pretend, they force, they tolerate, they adjust, and they bend themselves into shapes that are too small for their growth. They stay in environments that drain them, hold on to people who misunderstand them, cling to dreams that no longer reflect who they are, and carry responsibilities that should have been released long ago. And the more a person shrinks themselves, the more life begins to feel tight, painful, confusing, and suffocating. This is not because life is unfair, it is because the person is living beneath their inner truth. When you live in situations not meant for your soul, you disconnect from your inner wisdom. When you shrink yourself to be accepted, you reject the part of you that is trying to evolve. When you betray your truth to fit in, you separate from the path that is destined for you. Buddhism teaches that everything in life has a natural size and natural space. A seed does not argue with the soil. When its time comes, it expands. A tree does not shrink when the wind shakes it. It stands tall. A river does not hold itself back to please the rocks. It flows around them. Everything in nature grows into its own fullness without apology. But humans shrink themselves because of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being alone, fear of change, fear of disappointing others, fear of stepping into the unknown. But here is the truth you must understand deeply. Shrinking yourself does not protect you. It harms you. It keeps you stuck where you no longer belong. It traps your energy. It dims your spirit. It suffocates your creativity. It suppresses your intuition. It disconnects you from your natural path. And the more you shrink to fit into the wrong places, the more life begins to push you out of those places in painful ways. Through conflict, through discomfort, through emotional exhaustion, through sudden endings, through unexpected changes. These experiences are not punishments, they are signs. They are life saying, you do not belong here anymore. It is time to expand. Life always tries to move you toward your expansion. But when you resist and cling to the old, life has no choice but to remove what you refuse to release. And the removal hurts. Not because life is cruel, but because you outgrew something you are still gripping with fear. When you force yourself to stay small, life disrupts your comfort so you can wake up. The discomfort is a message. The pain is a message. The dissatisfaction is a message. The emptiness you feel inside situations that once made you happy is a message. Life is telling you that your expansion has already begun, even if you haven't accepted it yet. You must understand that you are not meant to stay the same. You are meant to evolve, grow, unfold, and transform. You are meant to expand beyond the person you were last year, last month, or even yesterday. You are meant to move into new environments, meet new people, think new thoughts, and embody new versions of yourself. But this expansion requires courage. The courage to stop shrinking yourself for the comfort of others and start growing for the sake of your own soul. Shrinking yourself usually begins in small ways. You silence your opinions to avoid conflict. You tolerate disrespect to avoid loneliness. You stay in relationships where you are not valued. You stay in jobs that drain your spirit. You pretend you are less capable than you are. You dim your light so others won't feel insecure. You keep your dreams small because you fear failure. You isolate yourself because you fear being misunderstood. Every small shrinkage adds up, and eventually you feel like a stranger to your own life. But the moment you stop shrinking, even a little, you begin to feel alive again. You start to breathe deeper. You begin to feel grounded. Your intuition becomes clearer. Your energy becomes stronger. Your decisions become wiser. You start choosing yourself instead of betraying yourself. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop pretending and start aligning. You stop hiding and start unveiling the truth of who you really are. This is where life begins to expand with you. When you step into your truth, the universe steps with you. When you grow, life grows around you. When you reclaim your space, new opportunities appear. When you honor your feelings, your path becomes clearer. When you release situations that shrink you, life replaces them with experiences that allow you to rise. Think of a lotus flower submerged in muddy water. It does not shrink itself because the environment is dark. It rises slowly, patiently and gracefully through the mud until it reaches the surface where the sun reveals its full beauty. The lotus flower does not apologize for rising. It does not remain in the mud because it is familiar. It does not hold itself back to stay with the roots that no longer reflect its future. It expands because expansion is its nature, and expansion is your nature too. When you stop shrinking, you stop betraying yourself. You stop censoring your own voice. You stop hiding your gifts. You stop living for approval. You stop pretending to be less than the truth of your being. And when you do this, you begin attracting people who match your growth instead of your wounds. You attract opportunities aligned with your potential instead of your fear. You attract experiences that elevate you instead of draining you. You attract environments that nourish your soul instead of suffocating it. And most importantly, you attract peace, because peace cannot live in a life where you are constantly shrinking. Peace is found only where truth is allowed to breathe. You must understand that expansion is not loud. It is quiet. It happens slowly, internally, and steadily. It begins with the simple decision to no longer betray yourself. It begins with the awareness that your soul is asking for more. It begins with the courage to stop forcing yourself into shapes that no longer reflect who you are becoming. You do not need permission to expand. You do not need validation. You do not need approval. You only need to stop standing in your own way. You only need to stop clinging to the familiar suffering. You only need to stop staying where your spirit is shrinking. You only need to take one step toward the life that is calling you. And once you take that step, once you stop shrinking yourself, life expands more beautifully, more gently, and more powerfully than you ever imagined. Expansion begins the moment you choose yourself. 12. Your inner world changes. First, then the outer world follows. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that the outer world is not the true source of your suffering, your peace, your happiness, or your progress. Everything begins inside you. Your inner world is the lens through which you see life. It shapes your decisions, your reactions, your relationships, your opportunities, and even the energy you attract. Yet many people spend their entire lives trying to fix the outside world while completely ignoring the storms inside themselves. They try to change people, control circumstances, manipulate outcomes, and rearrange their environment, hoping these actions will fix the discomfort inside their hearts. But the truth is simple. The outer world only changes when the inner world is transformed. Most people don't realize how much their internal state influences everything around them. When your mind is anxious, even small problems feel enormous. When your heart is heavy, even good moments feel empty. When your inner world is chaotic, your life appears chaotic. Not because life is harsh, but because your inner lens is clouded. You cannot see clearly when your thoughts are loud. You cannot feel peace when your emotions are in conflict. You cannot make wise decisions when your mind is cluttered. You cannot attract better things while carrying beliefs that sabotage you. And you cannot live a meaningful life when your inner world remains unexplored, unhealed, or ignored. Buddhism teaches that the mind is the root. Everything grows from it. If the root is poisoned, the fruit is bitter. If the root is nourished, the fruit is sweet. This is why ancient masters spent more time working on their inner clarity than on changing the world around them. They understood that your entire experience of life is shaped not by what happens, but by how your mind interprets it. Two people can experience the exact same event. One becomes broken, the other becomes wiser. The difference is not the event, it is the inner strength, inner clarity, and inner openness of the person experiencing it. When you take responsibility for your inner world, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop blaming life for your pain. You stop waiting for the world to change before you allow yourself to feel peace. Instead, you begin transforming the only place that is truly under your control, your mind. You begin cleaning the lens instead of complaining about the view. You begin understanding yourself instead of fighting yourself. You begin responding to life instead of reacting blindly. Inner change is not dramatic. It is subtle, slow, and deeply personal. It begins with awareness, the ability to observe your own thoughts, emotions, patterns, and behaviors without judgment. Awareness is the first step because you cannot heal what you do not see. When you become aware of your triggers, your fears, your expectations, and your wounds, you begin to understand the hidden forces controlling your life. And once you understand them, they lose their power. Awareness turns unconscious habits into conscious choices. After awareness comes acceptance, accepting your inner world without denial, without shame, without blaming yourself. Acceptance is not weakness. It is the beginning of transformation. When you accept what you feel, you stop running from yourself. You stop burying your pain. You stop numbing your emotions. Instead, you meet yourself honestly, which creates the conditions for healing. Healing begins when you stop resisting your inner experiences, when you allow your emotions to rise without judging them, when you sit with your discomfort instead of escaping it, when you listen to what your pain is trying to teach you. The inner world heals not through force, but through compassion. And as the inner world heals, the outer world begins to shift in unexpected ways. Your relationships improve, not because other people changed, but because your communication becomes clearer, your boundaries stronger, and your heart calmer. Opportunities start appearing, not because luck suddenly found you, but because your energy becomes aligned with growth instead of fear. Your decisions improve, not because life became easier, but because your mind becomes quieter, your intuition louder, and your vision clearer. You stop repeating the same mistakes, not because the world changed, but because you changed your patterns. You stop chasing what hurts you, not because they disappeared, but because you finally see your worth. The outer world is a mirror. It reflects your inner state back to you. This is why when people carry anger inside, they see anger everywhere. When they carry fear, they see danger everywhere. When they carry insecurity, they see judgment everywhere. But when they carry peace, they begin to see harmony. When they carry clarity, they see direction. When they carry self-respect, they see healthier relationships. When they carry trust, they see possibilities. Inner transformation also changes the energy you attract. A restless mind attracts restless situations. A peaceful mind attracts peaceful outcomes. A desperate heart attracts unhealthy connections. A grounded heart attracts aligned relationships. What you focus on, you invite more of. What you repeatedly think, you reinforce. What you emotionally cling to, you manifest. This is not magic. It is psychology, spirituality, and emotional intelligence woven together. A person who transforms their inner world becomes unshakable. They do not depend on external validation. They do not fear uncertainty. They do not collapse when things go wrong. They do not lose themselves in chaos. Their strength comes from within, not from fragile external conditions. Their peace is internal, so no one can take it away. Their clarity is internal, so confusion cannot control them. Their self-worth is internal, so rejection cannot break them. This is true freedom. This is the power of inner change. Buddhism teaches that the outer world is impermanent. People leave, situations change, circumstances shift, seasons end, and nothing stays the same. If you tie your peace to the outer world, you will always be unstable. But if you root your peace in your inner world, you become steady, regardless of what happens around you. You become like a mountain, strong, grounded, and unaffected by passing storms. This is why monks can sit in peace even in difficult environments. Their peace does not depend on silence. It depends on mastery. Their calmness does not depend on calm surroundings. It depends on inner discipline. Their clarity does not depend on life being easy. It depends on their ability to stay centered when the world becomes noisy. Their happiness does not come from possessions, recognition, or circumstances. It comes from the mind that has been trained to let go, observe, and return to peace. Your life expands when your inner world expands. Your outer reality changes when your inner patterns change. The opportunities you desire will come to you when you become the version of yourself who can hold them. The peace you seek will appear when you stop expecting the world to give it to you. The love you want will find you when you heal the wounds that push it away. Everything begins inside you. Everything. The outer world is simply the echo of your inner world. Transform the root, and the entire tree of your life blossoms. 13. The more you trust the process, the less you fear the unknown. One of the most important teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that life is always unfolding in ways we cannot predict or control. The future is uncertain, unpredictable, and constantly shifting. Yet most of our suffering comes from trying to force certainty in a world that was never designed to be fully known. Human beings fear the unknown because the mind craves clarity, safety, and familiarity. When something is unclear, the mind starts imagining the worst possible outcomes. It fills the unknown with fear because fear feels like protection. But Buddhism teaches that fear of the unknown is not protection. It is imprisonment. The more you fear the unknown, the more you shrink your life. The more you trust the process, the more life expands in your favor. Trusting the process means believing that life is always moving you toward your growth, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is confusing, even when you cannot see the reasons. Most people only trust life when things are going well, when circumstances match their expectations, or when plans unfold smoothly. But true trust is not tested in easy moments. True trust is tested in the moments when you have no idea how things will turn out. When you stand between two chapters, one that ended and one that hasn't begun, these moments feel terrifying because the mind hates not knowing. But these are also the moments where the deepest transformation happens. When you trust the process, you stop trying to control everything. You stop fighting every twist and turn. You stop resisting every unexpected event. Instead, you lean into the flow of life with curiosity instead of fear. You start saying, "I don't know where this is going, but I trust that it's leading me somewhere meaningful." This mindset shifts your entire emotional landscape. Fear loses its grip, anxiety loosens, stress softens. You begin to relax into the journey instead of constantly fighting it. Buddhism teaches that life is like a river. You cannot predict every bend, every depth, or every current. If you fight the river, you drown in fear. If you flow with it, you discover new places, new experiences, and new wisdom. Trusting the process means allowing the river to carry you, not blindly, but with awareness, with openness, and with the understanding that every movement of life is shaping you into someone wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. One of the reasons people fear the unknown is because they have been conditioned to believe that they must control everything. Society teaches that you must always have a plan, always know your next step, always secure your future, and always be certain. But Buddhism teaches that certainty is an illusion. Life is always changing. People leave, opportunities shift, circumstances transform. Nothing remains solid forever. When you chase certainty, you are chasing something that does not exist. When you trust life, you accept uncertainty and learn how to move with it gracefully. Uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the space where possibilities live. It is the opening through which new opportunities enter. It is the ground where transformation grows. When everything is predictable, nothing new can happen. But when the path is uncertain, life has the freedom to surprise you, elevate you, and shift you into a new version of yourself. Every breakthrough you have ever experienced came from a moment where you stepped into the unknown. Every blessing you cherish today was once something unfamiliar. Every new chapter in your life began with uncertainty. The unknown is not darkness. It is potential. It is the field of infinite possibilities. When you fear it, you close that field. When you trust it, you open yourself to outcomes far greater than your imagination. Trusting the process also means accepting that you do not need to know everything right now. The mind wants answers immediately. It wants clarity before taking action. It wants guarantees before stepping forward. But life does not operate like that. Answers come after you move. Clarity comes after you take the step. Strength comes after you face the challenge. Wisdom comes after you experience the moment. If you wait for total certainty before acting, you will remain stuck forever. When you start trusting life, you stop asking, "What if something goes wrong?" And you start asking, "What if something goes right?" You stop imagining the worst and begin imagining possibilities. You stop collapsing into fear and begin walking with faith. And faith does not mean expecting life to follow your plan. It means trusting that whatever happens will ultimately lead you toward your highest good. Buddhism teaches that the universe is not chaotic. It is intelligent. Every experience, every delay, every detour, every meeting, every ending, and every beginning carries meaning. You may not understand the meaning in the moment, but with time, perspective reveals the deeper purpose behind each event. When you trust the process, you stop demanding explanations from life and begin allowing life to reveal itself in its own timing. Trust is also an act of self-respect. When you trust the process, you trust your own ability to handle whatever comes. You stop seeing yourself as fragile. You stop doubting your strength. You stop assuming you will collapse under pressure. Instead, you recognize that you've already survived things you once thought were impossible. You realize that your resilience is far greater than your fear. You begin to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, the unknown becomes less threatening. The unknown is only scary when you believe you cannot survive it. But when you know your own power, the unknown becomes exciting. It becomes a space of transformation. Trusting the process also heals your relationships. When you live in fear, you cling to people, trying to control their behavior so you don't lose them. You hold on tightly because you are afraid of the unknown that comes with letting go. But when you trust life, you allow relationships to flow naturally. You stop begging for attention. You stop forcing people to stay. You stop fearing distance. You understand that the right people will remain and the wrong people will leave, and both outcomes serve your growth. Trusting the process transforms how you deal with loss. Instead of seeing endings as unfair, you begin seeing them as transitions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" The unknown that once terrified you becomes a teacher instead of a threat. And most importantly, trusting the process gives you inner peace. Not because life becomes predictable, but because you stop exhausting yourself with the need to predict. You stop overthinking every possibility. You stop trying to be the architect of every detail. You stop suffocating your own journey. When you trust life, you breathe deeper. You walk lighter. You feel supported instead of alone. You feel guided instead of lost. You feel connected instead of fearful. You feel aligned instead of confused. You must understand this. Trusting the process does not mean you stop taking action. It means you stop forcing action. It means you take steps that come from clarity instead of panic. It means you move forward with openness instead of fear. It means you allow the next chapter to unfold without trying to control every page. Life becomes infinitely more peaceful when you stop trying to control what has not yet happened. Life becomes infinitely more beautiful when you allow the unknown to reveal itself slowly. Life becomes infinitely more meaningful when you trust that the process is shaping you into the person you are meant to become. The more you trust the process, the less you fear the unknown, because you finally realize the unknown is not emptiness but possibility. It is not danger but transformation. It is not darkness but the beginning of a new light that has not yet appeared. Trust life, and life will begin trusting you. 14. Your life becomes lighter the moment you stop carrying what isn't yours. One of the greatest causes of human suffering is the unconscious habit of carrying burdens that do not belong to us. Buddhism teaches that the mind becomes heavy not because of life itself, but because of the unnecessary emotional weight we place upon ourselves. We carry other people's expectations, other people's judgments, other people's mistakes, other people's opinions, other people's pain, and even other people's responsibilities. Slowly, without realizing it, we become exhausted not from our own lives, but from the load of everything we've collected from the outside world. Many people wake up tired not because of physical exhaustion, but because of emotional weight. They carry guilt for things they could not control. They carry shame for moments that should have brought understanding instead of self-blame. They carry resentment that poisons their peace. They carry memories they refuse to release. They carry every harsh word ever spoken to them. They carry fears planted by others. They carry wounds from childhood. They carry relationships they've outgrown. They carry dreams that no longer reflect who they are. They carry stress about situations that no amount of worrying can change. And the heavier the mind becomes, the harder life feels. Every step becomes difficult. Every decision feels pressured. Every day becomes a battle. But the truth is this: you were never meant to carry all of this. Much of what weighs you down does not belong to your soul. It is borrowed weight, picked up because you feared disappointing others, because you wanted acceptance, because you loved deeply, because you didn't know how to say no, or because you didn't know you had the right to put the burden down. Buddhism teaches that one of the most important acts of self-compassion is learning how to release what is not yours. Letting go is not abandonment, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that your spirit is not a container for every emotion in the world. It is the understanding that your peace is not negotiable. It is the realization that you cannot save everyone, fix everyone, carry everyone, or please everyone without losing yourself in the process. You must understand that people will project their fears, insecurities, frustrations, and unhealed wounds onto you. This is not your burden to carry. Their anger is not your responsibility. Their bitterness is not your identity. Their disappointment is not your truth. Their expectations are not your obligation. Their judgment is not your destiny. If you absorb what is not yours, you poison your inner world and block your path to peace. Carrying what isn't yours also makes you forget who you are. When you constantly adjust yourself to meet expectations, you lose touch with your own desires. When you live for approval, you lose your authenticity. When you try to be everything for everyone, you lose the parts of you that make your life meaningful. Many people feel lost, not because they lack direction, but because they are buried under layers of roles, obligations, and emotional weight imposed by others. The moment you begin to put down what was never yours, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel lighter, not because life suddenly changed, but because you finally stopped dragging unnecessary emotional luggage. You begin breathing deeper because the weight on your chest begins to lift. Your thoughts become clearer because fear and guilt no longer occupy every corner of your mind. Your heart becomes softer because it is no longer suffocating under responsibility that was never meant for it. Your energy returns because you stopped giving it away to people who did not know how to hold it with care. Letting go of unnecessary burdens requires awareness. You must learn to notice when you are carrying something that isn't yours. Ask yourself, is this emotion coming from me, or did I absorb it from someone else? Is this expectation aligned with my truth, or is it society's voice speaking through me? Is this responsibility genuinely mine, or did I accept it out of fear? Is this fear based on reality, or was it planted in me by someone else's insecurity? When you ask these questions honestly, you begin to separate your true self from the weight of the world. You also must learn the art of healthy boundaries. Buddhism teaches compassion, But compassion does not mean self-sacrifice. Compassion means understanding others from a place of balance, not from a place of suffering. When you set boundaries, you do not become selfish. You become wise. You stop offering your peace in exchange for other people's comfort. You stop giving more than your soul can afford. You stop allowing others to treat your heart as a dumping ground for their unresolved struggles. Boundaries do not push people away, they eliminate the wrong people. The right people will respect your space, your time, your mental peace, and your emotional limits. The wrong people will only stay if you continue shrinking, bending, and breaking yourself for them. When you set boundaries, you stop carrying what drains you and start giving energy to what strengthens you. Another form of unnecessary weight is the past. Many people carry regret, guilt, mistakes, heartbreaks, and memories that have long expired. They replay moments that can no longer be changed. They punish themselves for things they did when they were younger, hurt, scared, or unhealed. But Buddhism teaches that the past is not meant to be carried. It is meant to be learned from. Once the lesson is understood, you must release the emotional weight. Carrying the past is like dragging a corpse through your life. It slows you, weakens you, and blinds you to the beauty of the present. Forgiveness is also a form of putting down weight. Forgiveness does not erase the past. It frees you from carrying it. It does not justify what happened. It prevents it from continuing to harm you. When you forgive others, you remove their hold over your heart. When you forgive yourself, you dissolve the chains you built with your own hands. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is untangling your soul from the emotional prison you've lived in for too long. You also carry the weight of the future: fear, uncertainty, expectation, pressure. You worry about outcomes you cannot control, timelines you cannot predict, and possibilities that may never come. But the future is not yours to carry either. It has not arrived yet. Carrying it only steals your peace in the present. The only way to prepare for the future is to stay grounded in the now. When the present moment is handled with clarity, the future takes care of itself. As your inner world becomes lighter, you begin to feel a sense of freedom that you may have never known. Your steps become more grounded. Your breathing becomes more natural. Your decisions become more aligned. Your energy feels renewed. You begin to feel like yourself again, not the version shaped by pressure, fear, or obligation, but the version shaped by truth, authenticity, and self-awareness. Life becomes easier not because responsibility disappears, but because you stop carrying responsibility that does not belong to you. You only carry what is yours: your growth, your choices, your actions, your reactions, your healing, your dreams. Everything else is excess weight, and life becomes peaceful the moment you place that weight down. You must understand one truth: you were not born to carry the world. You were born to experience it, learn from it, move through it, and grow within it. The world is not your burden. Life is your path. Your soul is your responsibility. Your peace is your priority. And when you stop carrying what isn't yours, you finally have the strength to carry what truly matters. 14. Life stops. Hurting the moment, you stop overholding, overthinking, and over-controlling everything. There comes a point in every person's life where the mind becomes so heavy, so exhausted, and so overwhelmed that nothing feels peaceful anymore. You wake up tired, even if you slept. You feel drained, even if nothing big happened that day. You feel emotionally stiff, even if you didn't face any conflict. And beneath all of this lies one truth: you are holding on to far more than your soul was ever designed to carry. Buddhism teaches that suffering multiplies not because of life, but because we cling too tightly to everything: situations, memories, fears, expectations, identities, and imagined outcomes. The more tightly you hold, the more life begins to hurt. Most people don't realize that they're not just living life. They are gripping life with fear. They are clenching onto control, trying to make sure nothing goes wrong. They are gripping onto relationships because they're afraid to be alone. They are gripping onto their past because letting go feels like losing their identity. They are gripping onto the future because uncertainty scares them. And they are gripping onto small things, every comment, every look, every assumption, every mistake, as if each one defines their entire worth. When your mind becomes a fist, nothing can flow. Life feels blocked. Energy feels stuck. Even breathing feels harder. The truth is simple. You cannot experience peace while living in a state of clenching. Peace requires looseness, openness, softness, and space. The mind must learn to open again like a hand, able to receive, able to release, able to allow life to move. In Buddhism, there is a teaching. Pain is what happens. Suffering is what the mind adds. The tight hold is the addition. When you hold on to a thought, you suffer. When you hold on to a memory, you suffer. When you hold on to a situation with fear, you suffer. When you try to control things that were never under your control, you suffer intensely. And most of this suffering is self-created, not because you are weak, but because no one taught you how to let go without feeling like you're losing everything. You must understand, letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying. There is a profound difference. Caring comes from love. Carrying comes from fear. Caring feels light. Carrying feels heavy. Caring allows freedom. Carrying traps you. When you care, you nurture. When you carry, you suffocate yourself. Most people are not suffering because life is unfair. They are suffering because they never learned how to put the emotional load down. Overholding also creates overthinking. When you hold on to something tightly, your mind starts spinning around it endlessly. You create stories, scenarios, expectations, and fears that don't match reality. You begin predicting outcomes that haven't happened. You create imaginary danger. You assume the worst because the mind believes that worrying equals protecting. But in Buddhism, it is understood that overthinking does not protect you. It drains you. It dims your intuition. It steals the present moment. It blinds you to the beauty and opportunities in front of you. When you let go of the need to control, something powerful happens. Your mind stops spinning. It relaxes. It breathes. It becomes soft instead of defensive. And when the mind becomes soft, clarity follows. The answers you were trying to force appear naturally. The solutions you were struggling to find become obvious. The emotions that felt impossible to understand begin to make sense. Peace does not come from more thinking. It comes from loosening your grip. The tightest grip people have is on outcomes. They want life to unfold exactly as they imagine. They want things to work on their timeline. They want guarantees before taking steps. They want relationships to succeed simply because they invested deeply. They want certainty in an uncertain world. But Buddhism teaches that the root of suffering is attachment to outcome. When you demand that life follow your script, you create inevitable disappointment. Not because life is cruel, but because your script was too narrow. Life is bigger than your plans. It sees what you cannot. It prepares what you do not know you need. When you let go of forcing outcomes, you make space for something better, something aligned, something peaceful, something meant for your growth. When you loosen your expectations, life begins to move again. You stop resisting the flow. You stop blocking your blessings with fear. You stop getting in your own way. Another heavy burden people carry is other people's emotions. They hold on to other people's moods, reactions, disappointments, anger, and expectations, as if these emotions are their responsibility. They absorb the energy around them like a sponge. They take things personally. They try to fix everyone. They carry guilt for problems they did not create. They carry responsibility for situations they did not cause. But Buddhism teaches that each person walks their own path. Each person carries their own karma, their own lessons, their own emotional wounds. You are responsible for how you treat people, not for how they feel about their own inner world. Letting go of emotional responsibility for others is freedom. Not coldness, not selfishness, freedom. You love others with compassion, but you do not carry their storms inside your mind. You help when you can, but you do not drown yourself, trying to pull them out of waters they refuse to leave. You listen, but you do not lose yourself in the process. This space protects your peace and allows others to grow. Letting go also means releasing the idea that you must always be strong. The belief that you must carry everything alone. The belief that resting is weakness. The belief that asking for help is shameful. These beliefs create unnecessary emotional weight. In Buddhism, strength is not defined by how much you can endure. It is defined by how lightly you can travel. The less you carry, the farther you can go. Life becomes lighter when you put down what is not yours. Life becomes lighter when you release what is outdated. Life becomes lighter when you stop fighting the same battles with the same thoughts. Life becomes lighter when you stop forcing yourself into places that break your spirit. Life becomes lighter when you stop trying to control what was never in your hands. Life becomes lighter when you allow things to end. Life becomes lighter when you forgive. Life becomes lighter when you walk away from what drains you. Life becomes lighter when you trust the present moment instead of fearing the next. You must understand, letting go is not something you do once. It is a lifelong practice. Every day you release something, a fear, a belief, a memory, a disappointment, a misunderstanding, a version of yourself you have outgrown. Every day you lighten your internal load. Every day you reclaim a little more space inside your heart. And slowly, the world feels less heavy, not because the world changed, but because you did. When you stop gripping everything so tightly, life begins to breathe with you. You begin to move with the flow instead of against it. You begin to feel supported instead of overwhelmed. You begin to trust instead of fear. You begin to receive instead of resist. And most importantly, you begin to feel peace, not as a temporary escape, but as a natural state of being. Your life becomes lighter the moment you stop carrying what was never yours, and the moment you stop forcing yourself to hold what your soul has already outgrown. 15. Peace arrives when you finally stop trying to earn your worth from the world. One of the deepest sources of suffering in the human heart is the constant, exhausting search for worth outside oneself. People chase validation from everyone: parents, society, relationships, friends, strangers, even people they don't like. They want approval, praise, appreciation, recognition, and reassurance to feel valuable. They want to be seen, understood, accepted, and acknowledged. They want to be told they matter. And in this chase, they lose the most important relationship they will ever have, the relationship with their own soul. Buddhism teaches that suffering begins the moment you look to the outside world to tell you who you are. When your identity depends on the opinions around you, your peace becomes fragile. When your value depends on how people treat you, your confidence becomes unstable. When your happiness depends on others noticing you, your joy becomes temporary. The truth is simple. The more you seek worth from the world, the more the world silently controls you. And the more it controls you, the more you lose yourself. Most people do not understand how much of their inner pain comes from this one pattern, giving their self-worth away like it is something external, something negotiable, something that can be taken, shaken, or destroyed. They measure their value through relationships, success, achievements, social expectations, appearance, or how many people like them. But Buddhist wisdom teaches, you are already enough simply because you exist. Worth is not earned. Worth is not given. Worth is not measured. Worth is not something you chase. Worth is something you remember. Your soul came into this world complete, but conditioning taught you otherwise. From childhood, you may have been trained to believe that your worth depends on being good, being impressive, being useful, being perfect, being strong, or being obedient. You were taught that love must be earned, that acceptance must be proven, that belonging must be deserved, and this belief followed you into adulthood, affecting your relationships, your goals, your self-image, and even your spiritual path. Without realizing it, you became someone who overworks, overgives, overtries, overexplains, and overstretches yourself, not because you truly want to, but because you fear being unworthy if you don't. You say yes when your soul wants to say no. You stay silent when your heart wants to speak. You stay in relationships where you shrink. You tolerate disrespect because you fear rejection. You hide your true self because you fear judgment. You chase achievements not for joy, but for validation. You compare your life to others because you have lost trust in your own path. And the more you seek worth outside, the more life begins to feel heavy, confusing, lonely, and unfair. Not because life is cruel, but because you are searching in the wrong direction. You are searching outward for something that only inward awareness can give. Peace arrives when you stop trying to earn what you already possess, your inherent worthiness. Buddhism teaches that the mind becomes free when it stops chasing illusions. Approval is an illusion. Validation is an illusion. Recognition is an illusion. These things fade, shift, change, and disappear depending on the mood, perspective, or biases of others. Anything that depends on external sources will always be unstable because the world is unstable. Your worth must become internal to become unshakable. When you finally understand this, something profound happens inside you. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending yourself. You stop begging for love. You stop asking for permission. You stop forcing connections. You stop competing for attention. You stop trying to impress people who do not even understand themselves. You stop carrying guilt for not being who others want you to be. You stop twisting yourself to fit into places where your soul cannot breathe. Instead, you begin to return to yourself. You start valuing your own voice. You trust your feelings, you follow your intuition, you listen to your needs, you respect your boundaries, you choose peace over approval, you choose alignment over acceptance. You choose authenticity over popularity, you choose growth over comfort, and you realize that the world does not need to see your worth for your worth to exist. A bird does not need applause to know it can fly. A star does not need recognition to shine. A river does not need permission to flow. A tree does not need validation to grow. Everything in nature exists effortlessly, without trying to prove itself. Only humans believe they must earn the right to exist peacefully. Your worth is not something you must fight for. It is something you must awaken to. The moment you stop searching outward, you begin to feel a stillness inside you that was always there. A soft, quiet strength, a natural dignity, a peaceful stability. This is your true worth. Not loud, not dramatic, not dependent on anything outside, but deeply rooted within your being. When you connect to your inner worth, your entire life begins to shift. You stop accepting breadcrumbs of attention. You stop settling for relationships that drain you. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop allowing others to decide your value. You stop fearing loneliness because being alone no longer feels empty. You stop chasing people because you realize that the right ones will stay effortlessly. You stop forcing situations because you trust your path. You stop overworking because you understand that rest is your right, not a reward. Your inner world becomes peaceful because nothing outside can destabilize you anymore. When you know your worth, rejection doesn't break you, it redirects you. Criticism doesn't scare you, it informs you. Failure doesn't define you, it teaches you. Uncertainty doesn't shake you, it awakens you. Distance from others doesn't frighten you, it frees you. And when you truly know your worth, the world begins to respond differently. People treat you with more respect. Opportunities align more easily. Relationships become more authentic. Boundaries feel natural. Choices become clearer. Your energy attracts peace because you operate from a peaceful center. But the greatest shift is not external, it is internal. You no longer feel the desperate need to prove yourself. You no longer measure your value by how much others approve. You no longer diminish yourself to make people stay. You no longer break yourself to make others comfortable. You no longer fear being misunderstood because you no longer misunderstand yourself. The most important relationship in your life will always be the one you have with yourself. Every other relationship is a reflection of that. Every decision you make grows from that. Every boundary you set is shaped by that. Every dream you pursue is nourished by that. The moment you realize your worth is internal, untouchable, and independent of the world, your suffering decreases. Your peace increases. Your confidence strengthens. Your path becomes clearer. Your life becomes lighter, because you are no longer living to be chosen. You are living because you already chose yourself. And that is the beginning of true freedom. As your journey through these lessons reaches its final moment, one truth becomes clear. Life was never meant to be forced, chased, controlled, or feared. It was meant to be understood, observed, aligned with, and gently allowed. You were never designed to fight the entire world alone, nor were you meant to carry weight that breaks your spirit. You were born with a natural rhythm, an inner compass, a quiet wisdom, and a deep spiritual intelligence that has been speaking to you your entire life, whispering, guiding, warning, and calling you toward a more peaceful way of living. The problem was never life itself. The problem was the tension you held inside, your fears, your expectations, your attachments, your impatience, your overthinking, your need to control, your need to be validated, your inability to let go, your resistance to what is, your fear of what might be. These internal storms made life harder than it had to be. They turned simple moments into battles. They turned ordinary challenges into suffering. They turned natural experiences into emotional weights that drained your soul. But now you know better. You have learned that life becomes softer the moment you stop fighting it. Happiness begins the moment you stop gripping everything with fear. Peace enters the moment you stop forcing outcomes. Growth begins the moment you allow yourself to surrender to the flow instead of resisting every turn. The universe has always been moving with you, not against you. You simply could not feel it because your mind was too loud. You now understand that the tightness inside your chest was not a sign to fight harder. It was a sign that you were fighting the wrong way. Life was never asking for force. It was asking for trust. It was asking you to open your hands, open your heart, open your mind, and stop trying to control what has always been beyond your control. The river does not need you to push it. The seasons do not need you to rush them. The universe does not need you to dictate every outcome. Your path does not need you to panic your way forward. Everything meant for you flows toward you when you are calm, present, grounded, and aligned. This is the spiritual truth the Buddha taught. Suffering dissolves when resistance ends. Peace begins when acceptance begins. Freedom arrives when attachment fades. Your life transforms when your inner world transforms. The more you soften, the more life opens. The more you trust, the more life supports you. The more you release, the more life fills your hands with what was meant to stay. And the more you let go of what is not yours, the lighter your journey becomes. You have also discovered that the unknown is not your enemy. It is your gateway. It holds everything your future self needs: growth, wisdom, blessings, connections, opportunities, healing, awakening. The unknown only feels frightening when you view it through the lens of fear. But when you view it through the lens of trust, the unknown becomes a sacred space. A space where life rearranges itself into a new chapter, one that reflects your evolution, not your fear. And now, after traveling through every lesson, you stand at a different point in your journey. You are no longer the person who forces life, who grips everything tightly, who exhausts themselves trying to make outcomes obey their timeline. You are stepping into the person who allows, who trusts, who flows, who listens inwardly, who lets go gracefully, who sees the bigger picture, who understands the deeper rhythm beneath every experience. You now carry a truth that most people never discover. Life works beautifully the moment you stop trying to control it with fear and start moving with it through peace. You now understand that what is meant for you does not require force. It requires alignment. It requires calmness. It requires openness. It requires the courage to surrender. It requires the wisdom to let go. It requires the strength to trust. The things that are meant to stay in your life will stay effortlessly. The things that are meant to leave will leave no matter how tightly you hold. And the things that are meant to come will arrive when your heart has space. So breathe, loosen your grip, trust the process, stop carrying what is not yours, stop forcing what is resisting, stop chasing what is fleeing, stop begging for what is breaking, stop fearing what is unknown, stop rushing what needs time, stop shrinking yourself for spaces that cannot hold you, stop doubting your path just because it is unfolding slowly. Stop questioning your worth just because the world does not see it immediately. You are becoming, you are unfolding, you are expanding, you are aligning with the version of yourself who no longer needs chaos to feel alive, who no longer needs approval to feel worthy, who no longer needs control to feel safe. What is meant for you will find you, not when you are tense, fearful, desperate, or forceful, but when you are peaceful, receptive, grounded, and aligned. Let life come to you. Let peace guide you. Let wisdom shape you. Let letting go free you. And let the path unfold, not by force but by flow. Your calmness is your power. Your surrender is your strength. Your trust is your bridge. And your inner peace is the true beginning of your new life.